Hi everybody, welcome to our Community Access. It's a special edition and I'm Terry Stiles and I am with a horticultural specialist, Pete Sheardy, who grew up in this area, but you travel around a lot. I have spring fever. I can't wait till the leaves turn green out there, but right now everybody has houseplant fever, and it seems like that just started recently. I know when I was younger we had plants all over the house, but just recently, what's going on with the houseplant world?
Well, it's funny you talk about just recently. Somebody asked me one time, when did houseplants become houseplants? And it's really difficult to put a date on it, but we do know that, I'll go back 4,000 years ago.
Wow.
To paintings of Egyptian palaces that actually had potted plants in it. So those may have been the first houseplants that we know of today.
No kidding.
So when the term houseplant came in, nobody knows for sure, but I also like to remind everybody there's no such thing as a houseplant in nature. They are all human manipulated.
Wow.
So it's through a process called acclimation. And what we do is we take a plant and we lower the light levels on that plant so that after about 90 days in lower light, that makes that plant much more suitable to the homes here in Michigan,
So it
especially in the
adjusts
wintertime.
to that low
Yes,
light
yes.
level.
So we put them under 65% less shade. So that means that after that, it requires 65% less sunlight.
Wow.
So it makes it much better for Michigan homes, especially in the
right.
wintertime.
And they're also not a cold, most plants are not cold weather plants, right? I mean, we're
Right.
not lucky enough to have banana trees and
Right.
et cetera.
Right. These are all tropical or subtropical. You can put them outside in the summertime until the threat of a frost comes along, and then you can bring them back inside.
Is that all houseplants? So if I had like a pothos or pothos, I don't know how to say that, but if I put that outside, hanging it in the trees or just in the sun, what should I do with it?
So yeah, you can move any houseplant outside in the summer. The main thing you have to be careful is all during the winter it's been in your home at lower light levels. When you move it out and that Michigan summer sun gets them, you can cook them. You can actually scald the leaves.
Wow.
So you have to put them under an awning or under the shade of a tree so it doesn't get that full effect of the sun. But they'll love the fresh air. I always talk about how as soon as spring hits, you want to put your pets and your kids outside to give them some fresh air.
Oh, yeah.
Houseplants want the same thing. They would love that fresh air.
Speaking of fresh air, what do they do for us in the house in the wintertime?
So a study done back in the 70s by NASA actually showed how much oxygen that a plant will give off. And that's both indoor and outdoor. But it's through the whole photosynthesis transpirational process. I'm not going to get in the weeds of the science of it. But as a plant evaporates the water, it gives off obviously H2O, including oxygen, so that there's actually, they take care of the VOCs in a house, which are volatile chemicals coming off your computer screen or off your carpeting, and obviously carbon dioxide. And they say that pound for pound that bamboo gives off more oxygen than any plant on Earth.
No kidding.
And it's interesting because if you look at the skies over the bamboo forests of China, they're very clear. And a lot of oxygen coming off that bamboo. Now, it's hard to get a bamboo indoors, but these plants that you see in front of or any house plant will give off good oxygen.
Oh, you can't grow bamboo indoors?
It's pretty difficult. Now, you could grow a bamboo palm. This is a type of palm. It looks kind of like bamboo, but it'll have the same effect. Basically, we like to say that a 10-inch plant, which would be like a floor plant, will basically purify the air, for lack of another term, about 10 square feet.
Is that
So you want to have at least one plant per room
Oh.
to have a nice,
But
healthy
what if
house.
So I have a house that has a lot of light on the south side of the house. All the bedrooms are dark. What kind of plant should I put in there?
Well, you've got actually it's ideal for all kinds of plants.
Really?
Yeah. Most house plants are what we call in a moderate light or a bright diffuse light. So what that means is that you could put your plant in Michigan up to about 4 feet away from a north window, 5 feet away from an east or a west window, and like 8 feet away from a southern exposure window.
Oh.
And then in the wintertime, you can actually move them a little bit closer because the sunlight's lower.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, so you've got all different type of light levels that you could have in your house, it sounds like. So.
Well, so I feel like I'm doing all the wrong stuff with my plants. What's a good starter? How do you get started? So I do want to talk more about them going outside because there's diseases out there. But in the meantime, I want to talk about what's a good starter What's an easy plant to grow? I have killed a number of ferns and those trees with the small leaves.
Ficus,
Ficus, ficus,
yeah,
thank you.
with you and everybody else.
I've killed them. I've killed them terribly, and the poor little ferns. So what's good
So,
to start with?
the number one killer of houseplants is too much water.
Oh,
So I always recommend, we at the company I work for, the plant company.
we should say that.
Yes.
Please tell me.
Yes. So so
Sorry.
I work for the plant company. We produce Leaf Joy houseplants, which is a brand of houseplants by Proven Winners. And Proven Winners is very well known outdoors in the garden.
Okay.
And so this is their indoor part of the Proven Winners brand.
Ah.
And we created a plant we call our H2O line, and that's this particular plant here in front of you. The great thing about this plant is there's no soil, so you can't overwater this plant. It's in water.
Really? Okay.
We actually grow this plant
Oh,
in
very
soil
cool.
to get a good root development. And then we take the plant out of the soil, we wash all the soil off and put it in water. And then you set this plant anywhere but in a window, as the sunlight will discolor the water. So
Okay.
put it away from the windows and
Wow.
just let it go.
So
It's very
perfect
easy.
for
That's
like
your
a
first starter plant.
bathroom. Oh,
Yes,
yeah,
yep,
right.
Yep, a hallway, something like
Yeah.
that.
And is it just this type of plant or any plant you can do that with?
Not any plant. We've actually trialed many, and we've
Mm-hmm.
identified about a dozen plants that do well in this type of a situation.
So is there a website that people can go to find out about that? What's the best, what plant they can get?
Yes, it's actually the Proven Winners website.
Okay.
And then under the Proven Winners website is the Leaf Joy link to the houseplant part of it.
Okay.
And all of our plants, one of the things that makes the Leaf Joy houseplant kind of a step above some of the other plants are we grow all of our plants in controlled environment. Most houseplants that
Yeah,
you get today
right.
are grown in Florida or Southern California or Texas.
Oh.
And because they don't require heat, they're grown outside under shade. Well, when you grow a plant outside in South Florida,
gosh.
you're subject to whatever Florida has to give you.
Little critters.
All kinds of pests. Yes.
Yeah.
So it's we have a contained greenhouse, so we can control the insect situation. In fact, we use what is called an IPM program, which is Integrated Pest Management.
Oh.
So we bring in beneficial insects to kill and eat the bad insects.
Really? So you're not using chemicals?
Right. Right.
I can't tell you how many times I've brought plants into my house, and the next thing I know, I've got little tiny flies all over the house or webs on my plants. And I swear I get them from wherever I bought the plant. So
Well,
that's good to know, and that's probably what happened.
Well, I'll tell you, if you buy your houseplants at a reputable garden center, they should come pest-free. But the two bugs you just happened to mention are very common. The little flies that you see are
Little
called
gnats.
fungus gnats,
Oh.
and they actually live in the soil, potted plants.
Yes.
They live in your garbage disposal. They live in your drains. They live
Yeah,
a
because
lot of
when I
places.
water, sometimes all of a sudden.
Yeah, they're not detrimental to the plant. They're just bothersome to us.
So I want to talk more about that, how to get rid of them, what happens when you bring your plants in. But we have to take a break
Okay.
right now. But say your website again, or
Okay.
how people can contact you again.
It's provenwinners.com, and it's the Leaf Joy part of the Proven Winners website.
Leaf Joy.
Leaf
I
Joy,
like that.
yep.
That's a good name. Okay, so Pete came here. I heard that he was in the area. Pete and I have been friends for years. We grew up together. I heard he was in the area giving lectures on house plants at some of the garden centers around here. So that's why I brought him in here, and it's helping me out. So I hope it's helping you out. Don't go away. We'll be right back.
Did you know dragging chains can spark a wildfire?
Only you can prevent wildfires.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to a special our Community Access. I'm Terry Stiles. And again, I'm with Pete Sheardy, who I said grew up in this area. But let's talk about your job a little bit first. Qualify why you're telling me about plants. I did say you were a horticulturist. Let's define that term a little bit.
Okay.
And how you got there.
Sure. My first job was in a local garden center just a little south of here.
I will say Jacobson's.
Okay, all right.
I can
didn't know
say
if
that.
I could say that. All right,
Yes.
yes, absolutely. And working there in the garden center, and I started to notice that every time someone would walk out of there with a plant, they were happy. They were
Oh,
excited about it. I thought, what
so
a
true.
cool gig that if you could sell something to make people happy like that.
Aw.
And so I really got interested in
true.
plants and went to Michigan State University. I have a degree in horticulture from there, and I haven't looked back. I've been doing this north of 35 years or more, and and I've been involved in all different aspects of horticulture, from outdoor plants and roses to obviously indoor plants, a little bit in the floral industry. And right now I'm the Midwestern and Western Regional Sales Manager for leaf joy houseplants by the Plant Company, and promoting our brand of plants to independent garden centers, basically 2/3 of the country. So I travel
Okay,
a lot.
so people can look for your brand of plants locally.
Yeah, so if they go to the Proven Winners website, they can actually put in their zip code.
Oh.
And we'll tell you the nearest
Okay.
retailer of leaf joy houseplants.
Okay, all right. So what's your favorite part about the job that you do? About the plants, I'm not going to ask you about your favorite plant, but because I have many, I could name an orchid or two, and we're going to talk about those too. But what's the favorite part about your job?
Well,
Same thing?
it's educating people on the benefits of plants.
Nice.
I tell the story that sometimes I'll be on a cross-country trip on a plane and strike up a conversation with my seatmate, and I'll tell them I'm a horticulturalist, and we'll spend the next 4 hours talking about their yard, their garden, their plants, and we land, and I don't even know what this person does, but they're taking notes. They're really
Wow, how
interested
cool.
in what it is. Yeah, so I think that it's always evolving and changing. There's always new introductions and plants, new ways to sell plants, like this water plant that I showed you earlier.
Yeah.
So it's fun, and that it's always evolving, and it's a happy thing. Nobody needs a house plant, but everybody wants one. It's a
Well,
one
when you
item.
think about it, when people are sick, what do you send them?
Some flowers.
Either
right,
flowers or plant.
Right.
I've got quite a few plants this winter myself, and it does make me happy.
Sure.
I talk to my plants even, I'm sure, and makes them grow better.
Right.
I can remember in high school doing experiments where we would play music to the plants.
Oh, yes, yep.
And of course they grew better.
Yes.
So-
And they tend to grow better when you're playing like a little light classical versus maybe a little heavy metal.
Oh, absolutely, and that's what we played, is classical.
Right.
So there has been a revolution, it feels like.
Yes, in fact, so as mentioned, going back 4,000 years, but then the next boom was in the 70s, actually. It was
sure.
a big houseplant bloom, and the term interior-scape came in to play.
Oh,
A
right.
lot of commercial
Yeah.
buildings had indoor atriums and a lot of
Oh,
plants and
yeah,
stuff,
yeah.
right? It trailed off, but then, if there was a benefit to the COVID years, one of them was increased houseplant sales. I mean, double-digit increases
Really?
during those times, because people were staying home, and they still wanted to have that gardening effect and that feel of plants.
Right.
And it hasn't, it's trailed off since then, but it's still one of the fastest growing segments in horticulture.
Really?
Yeah, and it's really coming into the day of the green houseplant, the Schefflera, or the weeping fig, as you once mentioned. Those days are still there. Those plants are still there, but as you can see, there's more coloration or variegation.
These look a little hardier, so explain the difference between succulents or non-succulents. I know that succulents, for me, are easier to grow. What's the difference?
Well, succulents are yes, they are easier to grow. They
Or
don't
easier to keep alive?
keep alive.
Sorry.
They don't require a lot of care, a lot of water. Of course, my succulent friend growers would hate to hear this, but I find them rather pedestrian compared to a house plant.
Well, yeah, there's a whole lot of variety
Yes,
in texture, in design,
Yes.
in what they can do for a room.
Right.
Succulents are rather contained, right?
Yes, and you brought up a good point. It's not just the visual on some of these house plants. There's also a texture. There's plants that you got to go up and go, wow, that's real? Oh yeah, it is. Okay, yeah.
I can think of the staghorn fern.
Oh yeah.
Every time I see one, I touch it just because they're fuzzy.
They're fuzzy,
Okay,
yes,
so
yes.
when we're in Michigan, when is a good time for us to put our plants outside so they can enjoy?
Well, you've got to
As
wait
well.
until the threat of a frost is done, which can be any time in
Until
Michigan, right? I
June.
mean, I recall one Memorial Day seeing snowflakes in the air,
Yeah,
so
me
you
too.
never know. But safely, I'd say early June, and you could leave them out until probably the end of September. So
Oh,
they're
no
going to get a
kidding.
good 4 or 5 months of good fresh air.
Should you do anything special to them to bring them back in?
So it is something you brought about earlier too. You mentioned
Critters.
little webs. Yeah.
Yeah.
So spider mites are one of the main things that will attack a houseplant. And I'm sorry to tell you this, but spider mites live in your heat ducts. And
Oh,
so, so when the furnace comes on for the first time in the winter,
Yeah.
they've been all built up in the summer and it just blows them out.
Okay.
So when they come out, they're obviously going to go for a plant. So if possible, turn your furnace on before you bring your plants in. It'll help dissipate some of them. But they're, and you might bring something in from outside because it's been outside, but there are some great neem-based insecticides and pesticides. Neem is a great plant. It's from the Azadirachta tree out of India. I mean, it's so mild. They use it in
So
toothpaste.
it's a biological.
So it's very, yes, it absolutely is. It's botany-based, botanical-based. And, it's an insecticide, it's a fungicide for disease, it's an nematicide if you happen to have nematodes, and it's a miticide for those spider mites.
No
It's very mild.
kidding.
It's available at any retailer of
It's
garden
safe for
products.
your critters, your plants,
Yes.
or I mean your dogs, your
Yep,
cats,
yeah,
and
and your
kids.
kids, and yes, exactly, yes.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. So is it a spray or does it come in different forms?
It
and
comes
where
in
do you
different
find
forms. Yep. Again, anybody that sells any type of lawn care products or garden products
okay.
should have a houseplant care product as well. But it's
And is neem in the product, or is that the name of the product?
so the neem is in the product. Several brands carry it.
Okay.
But neem is the main product, is the main ingredient.
So let's go back a little bit. You told me the easiest plants. What are the hardest? What should we stay away from is what I'm trying to say, especially me. I mean, I'm pretty negligent. I do water them once a week and probably too much
Right.
because mine always have the brown, they're always brown on the edges. They're,
I can address that for you too.
Okay.
But
Yeah, do
yeah, I mean, I'm going to say try anything you want that looks good. Obviously, once you get comfortable starting off with the H2Os, then you could go with some what we call durable plants, like a snake plant or a ZZ plant. These plants are pretty low light, low maintenance plants. And these in front of you are very low maintenance as well. You mentioned watering once a week. I recommend watering about once a week in the summertime, but in the wintertime, once every 10 days, maybe 2 weeks, because the
You're
plants are
kidding.
resting, so they don't need as much water.
oh, is that why they're all turning yellow and brown? Or
Well, it could
crispy on the
over.
edges?
So it's interesting. The telltale sign that you're underwatering a plant is the entire plant wilts.
Sure.
The telltale sign that you're overwatering a plant is the entire plant wilts.
Oh, thanks.
It's the same symptoms.
Appreciate that.
Same, yeah. So
Good advice.
instinctively, we look at that and go, oh, it must need water,
Gotta
it's
have
wilting.
water, yeah.
When you might be drowning it. So check the soil, make sure it doesn't need more water. And you mentioned about the brown leaf tips. What happens if you use any type of water, that's with the exception of distilled water, but water has certain minerals and salts in it, and fertilizer does as well. So as the plant, through its process, draws the water up through the leaves, when it gets to the very tip of the leaf, it has no place to go. So
Right.
those salts and minerals actually burn the tip. So it's
Oh.
actually tip burn. And you can just scissor trim it off with a pair of scissors.
Really?
But it's just part of the owning the
can't
plant.
do anything
Yeah,
about
not
it,
a whole
okay.
lot. I mean, you can use distilled water, but if you fertilize, you're still going to get some salts and minerals in
Oh,
there.
okay.
So
All right, let's talk about fertilization when we come back and feeding your plants. I know
Okay.
you have to.
Right.
So don't go away. We still have more to talk about. And I'm also going to talk about the man. He's not only a horticulturist, but he's a author as well. So don't go away. We'll be right back.
Many medicines used to treat colds and flu contain acetaminophen, a pain reliever and fever reducer found in hundreds of over-the-counter and prescription medicines. But taking too much or more than one medication containing acetaminophen per day can damage your liver. So always read the label and don't take acetaminophen if you drink 3 or more alcoholic drinks every day. To learn more, visit fda.gov/OTC pain info. A message from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services Food and Drug Administration.
Welcome to Oxford Community Television. We are proud that our 4 communities continue to choose local programming, local news, sports, community issues, familiar faces, celebrations, and commitment to each other. Welcome to Oxford Community Television. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to our Community Access. I'm Terry Stiles, and it's a special edition because I have horticulturist and author Pete Sheardy with me. And so we are talking about how to take care of your house plants. I overwater mine. I'm finding out all kinds of stuff I'm doing wrong. I've got them right up against the window in the sun, and so that's probably hurting them too. And I don't feed them. So fertilizing, feeding, should I feed them? Now, I do feed my orchids, and I think I might be feeding them wrong. So tell me all about it. What am I doing wrong?
Yes, I mean, any plant will eventually use up any nutrients that are in the soil naturally, right? So you do need to get them on kind of a plant food program. However, you only need to feed house plants when they're actively growing, which is basically
Not the
May
winter.
through September,
okay,
right?
okay.
I give mine my last shot of fertilizer in the early of October, and then they don't get fed again until May. Okay, so
Okay.
yeah, and house plants, like there's an analysis of fertilizer. There's 3 numbers. Anything from plant food to lawn fertilizer has the same analysis. It's the macronutrients of nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. Like lawn fertilizer will have a very large first number because it's nitrogen and you want to green up that turf,
Oh, yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
House plants, on the other hand, we like what we call a 1-to-1-to-1 ratio or a 10-10-10.
Okay.
Okay, it's a nice, well-balanced fertilizer. You can use liquid fertilizer. You can use the pre-measured plant stakes if you like.
Oh, those little Job
Yep.
things. Okay.
Yeah, you do want to get them fed because they will eventually run out of stuff to eat in the soil.
Well, okay, speaking of that, so I look at my soil and think this is awfully barren looking. And that's when I want to transplant the plant. So how do we figure out when is a good time? So I have a aloe that's like this big in a pot, this big. I know I need to transplant it, but it's too heavy. I might have to. Do people do that? Do garden centers transplant your plants for you?
They do. They do. They
Really?
have that service.
I could
If you can get it
take it
into
in.
them, they can usually do it for you. Yeah, and to your question about how the soil looks a little bleak or bland, the soil does become spent. And so, every 2 or 3 years, I recommend, actually, if you can, taking the plant right out of the pot, washing the soil off of it, and giving it a nice
Really?
fresh soil.
Wow.
And listen, use good potting soil. Don't buy those 3 bags for $10 stuff at the gas
3
station.
bags full?
Because you're getting all kinds of fun stuff in there.
Oh,
So get some good
okay.
potting mix and update that soil. And then to your point, when does a plant need to be uppotted? I mean, it's going to let you know, but usually you'll see roots growing on the surface, or you might see the roots actually spiraling around the root ball, or the roots will actually start to push the plant out of the pot.
I have a couple of those.
Yes. So
Okay,
that's a
so-
sure sign that there's not enough soil to support that plant. So you need to go to a larger container and always go up one size or a little bit more. So this is basically a 5-inch pot. If you want to up pot this, you want to go to like a 7,
6 or 7.
right? You don't want to jump it up too high because you're gonna stress the plant out.
And you
over
want to
time.
pot the drains?
Yes, if you don't have a drain hole, you need to put some type of drainage material in the bottom, like crushed stone or gravel or something. So there's a reservoir for the excess water to drain.
So as far as fertilization or feeding it is concerned, would all these plants take the same
Yes.
food?
Yep.
How do you know what kind to get?
Well, again, if you look at it,
Just a house
plant,
plant?
yeah, let's say
Okay.
house plant firm, but it's got to be a 1-to-1-to-1 ratio. So like a 10-10-10 is a perfect.
It'll say that right on the
Sure will.
bag?
It'll say that right in the,
Okay.
yep, every fertilizer has what they call an analysis of what it is.
Okay.
So a 10-10-10 is good. And you mentioned orchids. The
yeah.
exception might be blooming plants, orchids,
Oh.
anthurium, gardenias, things like that. They would actually like a bigger middle number, so like a 10-20-10.
Oh, really?
Because that middle number really helps push flower and fruit production. If you have citrus, again, they like that bigger middle number.
Really? So I have a banana tree.
Banana tree, yeah.
Okay. So speaking of orchids, mine flower a lot, but the roots are like all over the place. Should I transplant that? I know the roots kind of like to, I mean, when you see them in the store, you can see the roots. So these are all over the place. Is it time to transplant?
Well,
Although they're blooming right now.
blooming, sure, and never transplant any plant when it's
When
blooming
it's
or
blooming.
fruiting. But and again, I'm not sure what type of orchid it could be that you might have, but orchids there's very few terrestrial orchids. Most of them are what we call epiphytic, which
What do
means
you
they
mean
live
by
off the air.
terrestrial?
So that they grow in the ground.
Oh, got it.
So
Okay.
epiphytic orchids basically grow off the air.
Wow.
So the reason we have them in a very light bark mix or soil mix is because
yeah.
they need something to support it, because how are you going to grow it in your house, right? You can't just put it in a tree like they do in nature. So,
Oh, wow.
yeah, and if you're getting your orchids to rebloom,
Yeah.
don't change it, whatever it is you're doing, because quite often we say in our industry that a lot of orchids are what we call disposable. I mean, it's like a
Oh, that would
poinsettia.
be heartbreaking.
Once it blooms,
Oh,
you know.
no.
But if you want it to rebloom, the best thing to do, it sounds like you're doing it, is ignore it, stress it out.
Yeah,
Don't water
pretty
it a
much.
lot. Don't let it get cool. It'll decide when it's ready to spike.
Mine, one of them is 10 or 12 years old.
Is it? So
And it blooms all the time.
I wouldn't do it.
The other one's about 5 years old. And the other one blooms like every other year or so. So I have 3 of them. And,
Okay, yeah.
I've kind of ignored them. I mean, I've never transplanted them. So they're still in the same
So
pot.
they're stressed. That's fine.
So that's why they bloom.
Uh-huh.
Oh,
Exactly.
how fun.
Yeah.
All right, so you said never trim. And I know that you did landscaping at one point in your life, in your younger life, and not that you're not young now. But when's a good time to trim outside? So I've got lilacs, and they're just out of control. And I've heard before, don't do it now,
Right.
or don't do it even in the winter, right?
Well, actually, any of your flowering outdoor material, I would recommend doing in like October.
Okay.
And if you have, most flowering things, including lilacs, go ahead and take a third of it right off. I mean,
Wow,
give it
okay.
give it a good haircut.
Okay.
It'll flush out,
All
and
right.
it'll be fine. But yeah, don't do any trimming now, because there's good as
Everybody's ready to
once spring
Yeah.
gets to Michigan, which should be pretty soon, right?
Eventually.
They're gonna leaf out. Where I live in Chicago, the forsythia are blooming and the magnolias
Oh,
are blooming.
really?
So,
Wow.
spring is sprung
Okay.
there.
Yeah,
so
no kidding.
Don't trim
You're
anything.
on the other side of the light.
Well, right, right, yes.
So yeah, forsythia too. So would I do that in the fall?
In the fall as well.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
All right. So let's talk about you.
Okay.
I know you're a writer. So we grew up together. So you've written a couple books. Where did that come from?
So am I
And
actually?
tell me about the books.
Okay. Well, I'm actually a published poet,
Yep.
lyricist, and author.
Oh yeah, let's talk about your music too. Oh my gosh.
I have 2 books. The first book that I published several years ago was called Airplane Etiquette, Traveling with Manners. And if anybody's been on an airplane lately, you'll find there's a lack of manners.
Oh
out
my
there.
gosh, yeah, I'm reading about it. So Pete travels a lot.
Yes.
And always has.
Yes, yes. So I've seen a lot of how air travel has declined.
Really.
And not the services of the airlines, but just
Passengers.
the passengers, right?
I can remember early on, we'd wear dresses and
Oh, sure,
or
and-
pantsuits
yeah.
and ties and
Yep.
yeah.
Now it looks
now
like
it's
some people
pajamas.
can get right out of bed and go right
Yeah.
on the plane. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was my first book. The second book is called A Gathering of Words,
Yeah.
and it's a selection of poems and lyrics that I've written over the time. I've probably written over 1,000 songs. Now, none of them are hits, so don't think I'm like a Neil Diamond or.
However, you've had some success with both.
Well, yes. And then I actually have, right now, my third book is with my editor right now, and this should be out probably in about a month. And
Another book of poems.
Yes, it's called
yeah.
Chasing Fireflies. And it's about, again, it's more poems and lyrics, more reflective on youth and loss of love and gain of love and loss of people and gain of people and things like that. So, yeah.
And you have a website?
I do.
Let's talk about that real fast.
It's petersheardy.com. And it has links to my books and to my music as well.
great.
And I write music with one of your other people that you do
Yeah.
here on the station.
So his show is It's Only Cooking.
Yes.
So that's John Ruska.
Right. And he and I write music. We've been writing music, for a long time.
Well, thanks for coming in.
Oh, yeah, but
I
this is great.
appreciate
It's fun.
it. You survived it.
I did, yes.
Do
was
it
fun.
again?
Absolutely. Anytime. I love talking about plants.
So you come back too. OCTV.